Hey, Nick here from Sweet Concrete and CredoSeal.com. I've been in hard surface restoration since 2007, and the most durable flooring solution for high foot traffic floors is concrete. Now, what kind of concrete is the best concrete? Like polished is one option, but the thing is about polished concrete is that it's very easily stained and or etched. Now, there are some other floor coating options like epoxies and stuff like that that are considered high wear, but the thing is that epoxies actually wear down pretty quickly. They get scratched up easily and can stain with certain types of oils being spilt on them. Plus, they're really hard to recoat over time. There are some other specialty types of sealers out there, and man, I've tried them all and discontinued use of every single one of them. Not only are they very inconsistent, but they're really hard to use. And I've lost a lot of money experimenting with these brands, and they've all sucked. So what's the solution? Well, now I'm using Versatec sealer. I've been working with the chemist over there at Concrete Chemistries for over 3 years now to help them develop this and testing it out in real life situations. This is a nano quartz sealer, so that makes it a lot different. It's very, very hard. And some of the pluses to the sealer is the fact that it's really easy to use, meaning that there's no mixing part A or part B together. It's water-based, meaning that it's a very low odor sealer. Even though it's an industrial grade sealer that can be used in warehouses and grocery stores and retail spaces and stuff like that, it's so easy to use that the average DIYer could apply it and still get good results. Let me show you really quickly on how easy it is to use so you too can get amazing results like this. The pad and then the sanding screen, you put these together, put it on the bottom of the machine. I'll show you how to use that. This will sand the concrete down, opening up the pores, and it will get rid of a lot of these trowel marks. So let's try that out. First, attach the hook and loop pad driver to the bottom of the rental floor machine. Line up the pad and the sanding screen on the ground, and then drop your floor machine right on top. Make sure that they're lined up correctly so your machine doesn't get all wobbly while you're running it. Bring the handles of your floor machine down to your hip level so it can kind of ride on the side of your hip, and then lock it into place and you're ready to go. Now, the rental machines will most likely not have a vacuum system attached, so just make sure that you wear a respirator while sanding. You really only have to do one good once over and it should be okay. Make sure that you vacuum up the areas afterwards thoroughly to get up all of the dust from the sanding. Diamond grinding is not required to use this type of sealer. That said, if you'd like to diamond grind the concrete, you're more than welcome to. You just want to make sure that you bring the concrete up to a profile of at least 120 grit. This will ensure that there are no grind marks after sealing it with the Versatec sealer. So just make sure you don't leave the floor at too low of a grit level, because you will be able to see those grind marks in the concrete. Always remember to do a thorough vacuuming after you're done grinding or sanding. And don't forget to do all the edges. If you're in a garage type of setting where you're able to open up the garage doors, make sure you blow out any dust after you're done vacuuming. This will help remove any of the dust and debris from the concrete if it is a possibility on an interior type of application. After I blow out the area, what I'll do is I'll dust mop the whole floor 2 times over using microfiber dust mops and the flat microfiber applicator. This will ensure that there is no dust on the concrete before you seal. This is extremely important to make sure that the sealer adheres properly to the concrete. Run your fingers across the floor, and if there's dust on your fingers, you're going to have to dry mop again. For a flat surface like this garage, I usually use a flat microfiber applicator or the fingery microfiber applicator to get into the nooks and crannies on the first coat. What you could do is just pour the sealer directly onto the concrete and work it into the concrete with the microfiber applicator pad. For a quicker method, you could spray it onto the concrete and then have one person spraying while the other person is working it in with the microfiber pad. Now this first coat I like to really work into the concrete and leave it extremely thin. You're applying very little to the concrete, making sure that you're pulling it tight. Thin to win is the motto. If you apply it too thick with the fingery microfiber pad, what will happen is it will leave streaks on the concrete, which are really hard to get out. So make sure that you work it into the concrete until it's nice and smooth. Make sure you keep your pace up though, because you don't want to overwork it. If you do, it starts to gum up on you and it will pull the sealer back off of the concrete. Soon as you've pulled the sealer tight and it's nice and smooth, move on to the next area. The fingery microfiber pad works really well for power troweled concrete that has a little bit of texture, or if you have expansion joints that you need the microfiber pad to get into. On a smooth surface, I like to use the flat microfiber pad for the second and third coat. As you see, I just pour it down, and I'm actually applying it much thicker this application. You can leave it a little bit thicker, just make sure that you're leaving the surface as smooth as possible, and you're not over applying so it's puddled in any areas. Even though it's smooth, it does have some self-leveling properties to it, so you can leave it a little bit thicker on the second and third coat. Although if it's hot outside and the ambient temperature is pretty high, it will set up quicker and you'll get less of that self-leveling properties, so make sure that you smooth it out as much as possible. Once again, you could just pour it right onto the concrete, wipe it until it's nice and smooth, and then move on to the next section. Don't overwork the sealer. As you work section to section, make sure that you're not overlapping the sealer, because this can lead to inconsistent sheen. Another thing that I really like about Versatec is that it's a water-based formula, which means that it leaves the concrete with a very natural look to it, unlike solvent-based sealers that darken the concrete drastically. And unlike resin-based coatings like epoxies or polyureas, it has a natural look once again because it's so thin. So it leaves that concrete natural looking, and it just looks so beautiful and accentuates the concrete much more than having some thick looking waxy type substance over the concrete like an ugly epoxy. For any sort of exterior applications, you could go ahead and pressure wash the concrete. This will clean and open up the pores of the concrete and is the best way to get any sort of dirt and debris out of any expansion joints or control joints. You always want to make sure that the concrete is fully dry before you start applying any sealers. So if you do pressure wash, make sure that you're moisture testing before sealing the concrete, or if it's hot out, at least give it 1 day to dry out before you go ahead and seal. If there's any spalling, divots, or cracks, make sure you fill those before the sealing process. For textured concrete, you could spray on the sealer using an HPLV pump sprayer. Mist it on nice and light, and you could actually apply a non-slip material like this 200 grit aluminum oxide to add some slip resistance. The sealer looks a little gray. It's because I added a little bit of a tint into the sealer, which will be released later this year. Instead of broadcasting the non-slip material into the sealer, which can leave it a little bit inconsistent looking, you can add the non-slip material right into the sealer's paint tray and roll it on, which I'll show you in a moment. Now, if you over apply by spraying it on, you have to make sure that it's not puddled in any areas. If it puddles, it will flake up in those areas. So you could go back and use a extension roller and make sure that you roll over any areas that might be puddled. This will prevent it from flaking up or damaging the curing process. One of the easiest ways to apply it is just using a regular old paint roller and a paintbrush to get into any expansion joints or control joints. What I do is I just work out of a paint tray and roll it on, and then back roll it until it looks clear. You don't want to overwork the area, but you want to roll it out and make sure that it's nice and smooth so it leaves the concrete with a nice consistent sheen. So if you want to increase the durability of your concrete, but still leave it with a beautiful natural finish like this, go ahead and pick up some Versatec sealer at credoseal.com, linked in the comments below.